Welcome Abhinav sir, and we are thrilled to have you today as our guest speaker. But before we start,
Thanks.
I need to tell you about a quick word about ADFAR Tech Ventures. So, we are an IT tech platform and we provide IT solutions, resources, and recruitments and tech audio podcast. And we have a vendor alliance to across 50 plus partners and resource base of 20,000 plus resources across all the skills. And we can deliver it both on site or offshore within 24 hours. That's our USP.
Mhm.
And at
Sure.
ADFR Tech, we love to hear the views of visionary tech leaders like Mr. Avinav sir. And we are super impressed by your LinkedIn bio and the experience. And we are going to talk about it. And our 10,000 followers are excited to learn more about your journey, your views, and your latest tech innovations and all the invaluable insights and your experience. So let's dive into the world of tech with our esteemed guest, Mr. Avinav sir.
Thanks, Varun. Yeah, Varun, so just a quick introduction about myself. So my name is Abhinav. I've been around commerce. I worked in prop tech. I spent a couple of years in gaming industry. And currently, I'm more into social commerce as well as in the e-commerce sector. And yeah, my areas of interest particularly is the use of AI to solve the complex business challenges that we have currently, around in different domains. So whether we speak of fintech, whether we speak of prop tech, also in e-commerce or social commerce. So that has been, something which I always look forward to doing and solving.
Oh, so there is just one question before we dive in deep into the technological sector. Since you are a person who started things into India from bits planning, so
Mhm.
how did you create that vision that you are going to do this only?
See, actually, once you envision a goal, and for example, you have something in your mind which you want to build, I think it's a matter of time when things also falls in place. So you have to do a little bit of a strategic planning in terms of like how do you want to go about it, and also look at, for example, the resources that you have available at that point in time, whether it be tech, whether it be product, and then from there on, I think it's a little bit of a planning that goes into the execution. But for me, I always feel being an agile enthusiastic, I think execution is very important. I mean, you can plan a lot, but if your execution is not perfect or does not fall in place, I mean that's the key. So strategy is the key, but then execution is really important.
All right. So here is the follow up about one thing. I come
Mhm.
from an engineering background, but I end up being a content marketer and a podcaster because later I realized that engineering is not something that is my cup of tea. I am something who is more into, interaction and talking to people and talk about their experiences. This is me. Then, in your case, like this, there is this bell that I am built for this thing. This is something that I can do, that confidence. When is the time you realize that, okay, I'm going to pursue this only?
I mean, it starts early in your career, as you said, Varun, right? I mean, basically, when you start off your career, so I started my career working for Wipro at that time, and at that time there was a lot of service industries around, right? So working in tech, and we used to love tech. I mean, especially during the time of my engineering days in the college. I mean, it's all about computer science or what we can do with computers, right? So it's from day one that you love what you do, and as you said, so basically you recalibrate also at certain point in your career whether this is something that you want to go ahead and do. Like, for example, do you want to do programming, or do you want to go into marketing? I mean, and you see a lot of people, Varun, for example, doing engineering in computer science, but doing an MBA and becoming an investment banker, right? So it's a completely different field. So, for example, when I did my MBA from Handel Hochschule Leipzig, which is among the top five business schools in Germany, I mean, you get a lot of exposure to everything, right? So I had a great exposure with a lot of colleagues of mine, in the German industry, and I mean they calibrate. So at some point you calibrate yourself, like, do you want to do this? And if you love doing it, then just go about it.
So this is something which you say ki it is something which is your by heart. You would love to do it and you never get bored of it.
Exactly. That's your passion. That you just follow your passion.
Right,
That's
right. Obviously, this is something which is very unique about you because at some point of time, whenever I talk to people, they say that we have done this, but we thought that it will not work. Then we have shifted to this. So they were doing the trial and error. But in your case, I was very confident that sir has that kind of clarity that this is for them only. So in terms of emerging technology trends, do you see that what is the most impactful technology that is going to change in your industry in the next 5 years?
Varun, I think definitely, and as everyone will say, artificial intelligence, machine learning is here to stay, and it has changed a lot of industries in the last 5 years, and will continue to change in the coming 5-10 years and the foreseeable future. Some other mentions, which I would also like to point out how things are changing, is for example, right now we have the use of virtual reality or mixed augmentation reality or augmentation reality in the field of advertisements. So in ads. So nowadays you see, for example, there's a trend picking up in the marketing space where people are using augmented ads, right? Mixed reality ads. So this
Augmented reality where you see
augmented reality or
celebrities.
mixed reality ads, which are very, very different from our typical marketing ad, right? That you
Right.
would see. And you can sharpen these ads more, with call to action, etc. But again, this is definitely changing the way in which we deliver ads, and these ads are just very, very, very popular, very powerful. I've seen a couple of them around. Then also, for example, the other tech which is there and which will actually, accelerate is the use of IoT. I mean, if you look at the internet connected devices, especially in the last 5 years, that we have, be it your refrigerators, be it your washing machines, be it your dishwasher, be it your lights, etc. Everything is now app controlled. It's now based on, like user preferences. So these are few things which definitely, in the coming few years and will definitely change the way the whole tech scene is at the moment.
Sir, I am going to push you a little bit more. When you when
Mhm.
you just said about ki, okay, the AI and machine learning is here to stay.
Mhm.
I agree with
Yeah.
that fact. But the question is how? Like, do you can you give me an example which is related to your current, मतलब practical example, which is
Mhm.
related to your work? Okay, this is here to stay because of these factors.
Okay, I will give you not one but many examples. Like just quick three examples I'll give. First, a quick example is the way AI has transformed the fintech industry and especially the lending industry. So I was heading the tech delivery at Aditya Birla Finance, which is one of the top conglomerates, NBFCs in India. And there we were solving the business problem of how to go away with manual underwriting and provide loans to people in a matter of around 3 to 4 minutes, right? So from the time you come to the platform till the time you submit your details, how are we able to assess your credit worthiness and provide you um, a statement where we could say, okay, you can get up to, let's say, 15-20 lakhs loan,
Debit
50
score
lakhs.
is this.
It's not just calling Sibyl and getting your Sibyl score. There's a huge AI engine which sits which analyzes a lot of data points, not just internal but also external data points. So we argument data points which come from Sibyl, which come from external data sources. We argument it in order to calculate a person's credit worthiness, and we kind of dispense the loans. So that's one quick example of how things have changed with the advent of AI, and this is improving further. And that's the reason why I say it is to stay, because, for example, now companies or banks are using computer vision in order to identify frauds, in order to identify, for example, the picture that you take versus the picture that you have on your passport or on your identity document, and then you kind of compare it and see if it is matching, plus the documents, etc. That's one area where I think AI has transformed things a lot. Second area quickly that I would like to talk about is, which is what we are doing right now, is terms of transforming how the social commerce industry works. So e-commerce, I think everyone knows, we have been using e-commerce for a while now. But social commerce is now the upcoming phenomena wherein it's a C2C selling, a customer to customer selling, wherein there are companies in US called Whatnot, which are valued in around 13.5 billion, dollars of valuation. And it really empowers people at the convenience of their homes to open their cameras, open their apps, just go live and sell. I mean, it makes the whole process of selling so easy, and it empowers small enterprises, people who don't have means to open a huge shop, or who don't have that capacity to to open workshops, etc. They can sit at the convenience of the house, and I've seen people selling things like shirts, things like pendants, things like collectibles, at the comfort of their home. They don't have to do anything. They just have to open the camera and then go live. So the way in which we are using artificial intelligence there is basically giving a very good buy recommendations to people who are buyers. And obviously, if you're a seller and if you want to sell on the platform, we use artificial intelligence in order to give you a good sell recommendation. So what's for example right now trending? What are the items that you can sell at what price point and what seasonality? So these are the intelligence which you need as a seller for you to sell certain items. So these are a couple of things where, as I said, so AI has changed a lot the way things used to happen, and is continuing to stay. I mean, this sky is the limit.
Right. So this is the positive side of the spectrum. Let's go on to the grayer side, because even like when every trend of a technology prevails into the society, there is some grayer side also. So coming on to that point, is there any specific technology that you think is overhyped and will not live up to the expectations?
See, I would not say overhyped, but there is, as I said, there is also a dark side to artificial intelligence, or something wherein we have to be very, very careful. And as I gave you an example, especially with the banking and fintech, where we are using artificial intelligence to do credit decisioning, we are using artificial intelligence for customer segmentation, etc. So you have to be very careful that the algorithms are not biased. That is one. Because there are serious consequences if you label somebody that as a probable defaulter who is not a probable defaulter, right? So there is, in all respects, the possibility for the algorithms to be biased towards a certain community, towards a certain population, towards a certain locality, towards a certain region, income group, etc. So this has to be very careful, and there are governing bodies in the banks right now, especially in the fintech industry, whose main and the sole objective is to make sure that these algorithms are unbiased. And the other thing which is also very, very important is that AI has to be explainable, right? So for example, in the same use case, we call about the AI to be explainable. So for example, if there is a credit body who is giving a loan, so basically you should be able to explain how you arrive to a certain number of a credit score or a credit worthiness for a particular customer, such that you granted him a loan or you granted him a credit, right? So the explainability factor is also something which we'll have to consider, which is kind of complex, especially if you do especially if you are into deep learning algorithms. So there we have a lot of problem in kind of exactly justifying, for example, if you break it up into layers, like which layer made what decision, etc. So those are the two areas I think which, I mean, especially if you look at from the AI perspective, are grayish, but I think people have their eyes on that.
Okay. Sir, based on this follow-up, this is something which this is something which came in my mind. So, for example, these days the data protection is something which is very much into the picture. So, for
Mhm,
example, every company has information security managers. So
mhm,
what they
yep.
do, they protect the data. For example, when they lease some hard drives, laptop, desktops from any MSPs, when they give it back to the end of the cycle, what they do, they make sure that the data should be wiped out completely. And when we say wiped out, it's overwritten so that it cannot be recovered. So that is related to data protection, and it somehow comply to the ISO 2701 2022 as well as EU GDPR. EU
Mhm,
GDPR.
yeah.
Yeah, it is somehow complies. So this is something which is a thing which is the safe practice and the best practice to comply. But when we come to the confirmation whether the AI is working neutral, unbiased,
Mhm,
and what are the safe practices to ensure, like if someone is there who is designated as a person, okay, you will look at the workability, functionality, as well as you will decide whether you will check whether it is working good or not, whether it's not faulty. So is it something which is related to any compliance, or it is yet to be coming, like, okay, so this is something which recently come in my mind.
yeah, see, there are, see, in terms of the data protection, there is a clear guideline, whether it is ISO 27001. I mean, in my previous company at Bridgewave, we were using artificial intelligence and machine learning to, let's say, to give recommendations to the users to buy stocks, right, and to trade, both for intraday trading as well as for your normal stock buying. And we were also working with the likes of Axis Bank, where we were using the data from Axis Bank in order for them to provide customer insights to boost their sales. Now, just to take that quick example, there is a huge data privacy issue wherein we have to work on things like data anonymity. And if you look, there have been instances where even though you pseudo anonymize data, many times, which is a very common practice, but still people were able to crack and debug and get to the exact person in question. So there is a very clear guideline in terms of data anonymization, in terms of let's say using customer information in order to make like decisions based on what is their behavior, without generalizing, or pinpointing someone there. Um, Also, see, there are different standards. So ISO 27001, for example. So we were ISO 27001 compliant startup, and we had two audits every year, wherein the auditor would check and see like how do we store customer data, who has access to it. So how periodically is the data cleaned? How is it anonymized? Um, and then also with regards to how are we using the customer data, that's also very important, because we have to be very clear, in terms of the communication to the customers, that we will be using the customer data in order to run algorithms on them, in order to do machine learning, and in order to identification, such that we can actually make some inferences. So there are very clear guidelines in ISO, and they are very, they enforce it in complete extent.
So for those of you who do not know ISO 27001 2022, it is a standard which companies need to follow for the data privacy, data masking, and the information. security managers, they are the people who make sure that all the compliances which is given in the ISOs are well implemented. And this is a one of the best safe practices that is there. So yes, ISO 27001 2022 is important for the people. So let's get back to the other question, which is a breakthrough for me also. So during your career, when you are advancing in your career from the humble beginnings to right now where you are, is there any major technological transformation that you have gone through which have led you more forward in your career? And during that time, what are the key challenges that you have faced?
No, so basically, if I look back and of my journey, there are a couple of points. One is like back in 2005 timeframes we used to have in terms of the backend architectures, how it has evolved. So we used to have an MVC model, injection of those architectures into microservices or a
Sir, sorry to interrupt. NBC model, after that, the connection is break. I don't know how. So can you just
Okay,
repeat?
I'll just repeat. I'll just repeat. Yeah. So, Varun, basically, there are a couple of instances during my whole career how things have changed. One was definitely the way how the architectures built. Let's say around 2005 time frame, where it was most of an MVC, a model view control architecture, um, and how it transformed from there to being microservices or a macro services or a service first architectures. So this is one of the key transformations that I have seen during my journey. That's number one. The second one is, of course, the way around from 2008 9 onwards, or in fact 2010 onwards, the way AI has played the role in the in bringing a lot of customer value, and adding a lot of technological advantages to a company. So those are two main things, two main, I would say, points which I have seen during my career. Challenges, of course, I mean, both of them have their own challenges. So, for example, when we were switching from a monolith architecture to a microservices oriented architecture, there is a huge learning curve because the backend systems are not built in that way. You don't have a clear concept of how you will break your monolith into services. But I think those are things which come when you kind of jump into the problem, and when you do a domain driven design, for example, you look at and see like, what is a domain that I have, how do I drive it into different subdomains, what are the services that I will have. So but yeah, that's part of the the transformation that happen, and you learn with it, you adapt with it. Then you see, for example, if service is too broad, you can kind of narrow it and break it down, or if a service is too small, you kind of make it more elaborate. And then coming to the next point, which is for the artificial intelligence, yes, of course, I think, as I said, so I also uh, studied artificial intelligence as a postgraduate diploma for me, um, and that gave me a good theoretical knowledge. But again, the when it comes to implementing AI practically within the companies, there's a huge learning curve there as well. So, for example, when we were applying AI in the prop tech domain, wherein we were looking at different document management systems by banks, and by other institutions, where we had to extract data from the documents, extract intelligence from the documents, and then give it to the users. A lot of issues we used to face, for example, with the data quality, how we do the data cleaning, um, spending almost 40, maybe 50% of the time in doing data cleaning, EDAs, exploratory data analysis, applying the model, refining the model, constantly learning the models. It's a second step. But that is something which you kind of learn along the way, if you pick up projects. And nowadays, I think, Varun, it's very nice, because we have a lot of these platforms, right? So we have Kaggle. So if you really want to, for example, test out your skills, just go on Kaggle, apply for a particular challenge. You have a data set available, you have the models available. You can just go ahead and explore and see like what best can you do. So yes, I think these technologies have changed, but then now there are so many learning resources that people can definitely, take a good advantage of it.
It's Kaggle, right? Sir?
Yeah,
Kaggle. Okay.
yeah.
Sir, extended to that question only. For example, what happens that during the during the intervention of a technology, for example, even you decide, okay, let's adapt that technology. So there is a discussion goes on, and when that discussion goes on, we evaluate the potential impact of that technology on your company's strategy, right? So,
Mhm.
sir, how do you evaluate that we are going to adapt that technology and it will impact in the strategy of the company in that way? Because every company has a look ahead. If you are going to adapt it, what is the look ahead? What was the potential result, potential risk? There are so many things on the pipeline, right? So, sir, how do you evaluate it?
See, any technological adoption, it's basically, as coming from a higher management, you have to think into different aspects. So first and foremost, I mean, does it add value to your customers? That is the biggest, thought process when you think about adopting a technology. Does it add value? Does it make life easier for your customers, right, or for the people and users who are using the product? Then the second aspect to it is definitely the cost part, where you think, as a technology leader, like what cost implications do they have? Is it economically feasible for me in whatever stage you are in, whether you are a startup, you are a scale up, or you're a full a big company. You look into the cost implications. You try to understand what does it take, for example, if you adopt this technology. Then third thing is basically you have to also understand the strategic and cultural fit which the technology brings in. And there have been instances in my career where people were very skeptical of adopting AI or AI based tools for their help, because they think they will lose their jobs. I mean, because for example, in the prop tech industry, many of these, let's say, document extraction tasks were done manually. So people were very afraid that they will lose their job. But how do you actually not just convince, but tell your own employees that adopting AI will actually help you do your work 30 to 40% faster than what you're doing currently with lesser workload? And hey, it's not going to take away your jobs or anything. There might be a replacement, yes, of course. I mean, it could be a case, but then it's there to help you. It's there to aid you. So all of these factors one has to consider when adopting, let's say, a new technology into the company.
When we talk about this, when we talk about this designation of CTO, so a lot
Mhm.
of people we got this query, and this is directly from our from our readers and even the listeners. So they always say that we need to understand that what qualities do you believe are essential for a successful CTO in today's technological landscape? So in your position, you are a person who like we actually recognize as a successful CTO. To all those people who are aiming for that kind of designation, what are the
Mhm.
qualities they must have, they manifest so that they can become successful?
Sure. See, Varun, first of all, I think whether CTO or not, you have to have a consumer or a customer mindset where you put the customers first and you think about the technology solutions um, which will benefit the customers and which will add a lot of value to the customers in any way. So that is the first and foremost thing which I think is the quality for a CTO or any person in the company. Second is obviously a CTO has to be the person who is very technologically well educated in a way that you should be in line with the latest trends and developments that you see in the technological space, of how technology is being used in different areas, in different domains, industry domains, etc. So you have to be very, very aware, what are the different tech stacks that are coming, pros and cons of using each tech stack, tools, or a technology. So that is, I think, one of the most important parts of being a CTO. The third thing is that a CTO is a leader, right? So basically, he has to lead his engineering team, he has to lead the product teams, etc. So you have to, leader is the one who leads by example. So basically, you have to be the one who jumps into things, looks into it, analyzes, discusses with the team, about what are the pros and cons, how best can this solution be applied. If there are any concerns, for example, from the dev team or development team or the product team, he has to understand all of that, and he has to lead by example. So that is, I think, another important quality of a CTO, that you have to lead by example. You have to really understand the problem space. You have to work with the team, and that's, I think, the key areas which I think is important for a CTO.
That's really great insight from your side, sir. Uh, moving on to this question only, when you said that he has to stay updated with the latest tech trends, right? So, your personal view, for example, let's take my instance that I stay updated by reading all the technological blogs and the research papers and also the podcasts that other people do on what are the technologies that are prevailing into the market and penetrating the social culture as well as. How about your side? How do you stay updated with the latest technological trends?
Yeah, so in terms of the latest technological trend, as you mentioned, so there are a lot of technical publications out there, research papers, and especially, for example, when you talk about artificial intelligence and machine learning, um, you have to read the papers that are being published, right? And you have to look into the scientific journals that are being published. Secondly, I think, as a tech enthusiast, you should be attending a lot of webinars, or if there are any, let's say, any podcasts that comes along, you should definitely go ahead and listen to them. I think one of the important things is that you have all these tech summits, right? Whether it's an AWS summit, or whether this is a summit being organized within your country, within your space. I think it's very important to go ahead and listen to the leaders, some of the problems that they have faced implementing a solution to a solution to a solution to a solution to a particular business problem, how they went about it, and you could definitely learn a lot from those areas. Plus, I think, time and again, since the technology is changing, and you have a lot of learning platforms available with you, in the likes of whether it's Udemy or Coursera, you have a number of platforms. So you just basically go ahead, enroll yourself, learn about the different tech stack, different courses. You can definitely have a lot of insight from them. So that's how I particularly make sure that I am aware of anything and everything that is going around. And it's not limited to only post in LinkedIn or on the web. Even on Facebook, for example, you have a lot of groups. So I, for example, am part of a couple of groups on Facebook, which discuss the role of artificial intelligence or computer vision, for example, in autonomous driving, etc. So there are multiple ways or touch points nowadays that you can use.
And when you say that when you go to the webinars, or when you attend any kind of seminar or any kind of event that is related to the technology, we also listen to the leaders on what kind of challenges they have faced in their career. So, driving from that question only, what are the challenges in your career, or is there any key specific moment where you have faced a challenge and you have worked out on it and came out as a victorious?
There have been a lot of challenges on different levels across my whole career span. So whether it is challenges that we face at Aditya Birla, where you have as an NBFC, you are a very responsible entity, especially for doing consumer and SME loans on a very large scale, providing a very good user experience and being very fair, as I said, in terms of using AI in the whole game. Two, for example, challenges that we faced where we were back in 2017. I think we were doing a lot of POCs, proof of concepts, where we wanted to use large language models, for example, to extract information from a different document, a diverse document data set, to provide intelligence to PropTech, especially real estate investors, where we faced a lot of issues with the data quality, where we faced a lot of issues with how do we apply different AI techniques to an unstructured, documents, etc. To now, for example, so now basically I'm working for a company called Mazadak here in Saudi Arabia, where we are changing the way in which people do, let's say, buy and sell here, where we are introducing more social commerce here in Saudi, where we are looking at using AI. For example, how are we going to help the customers, especially, for example, the buyers, to make good buy decisions, as well as for the sellers, what intelligence can we provide, what intel can we provide to them so that they are able to make, put good products for people, and that creates a lot of value between the two. So there have been different challenges coming along. But a very particular challenge that I faced was in my previous company, working with Bridgeby, where we were having an app which was providing recommendations to people to buy stocks. And basically it's also something which you use for your intraday trading, etc., where, for example, on one side we had to look at the stock data that comes every second. It's a huge, enormous amount of data. On the other side, we had to have our algorithms which run 24/7, which analyze all this incoming data and provide predictions, on which stocks are undervalued right now, which will go up. And these recommendations have to be delivered near real time to the user on his app, so that he or she can make a good purchase decision in terms of buying stocks. And this has to be kind of near real time as we speak. So this whole entire process. So yeah, there have been a lot of technological challenges that we have faced so far in the journey.
Coming on to that landscape of fintech landscape, even I am someone who came from my background is from the fintech landscape only. So when it comes to trading, and when it comes to especially trading of all the financial assets, say it could be cryptocurrency, say it could be all the assets from the Nasdaq or any kind of financial assets. So we usually provide the most of the things based on on that factor, that we are providing the predictions to the user who is onto the app, right?
Mhm.
So what is the accuracy, like how we decide that this is the prediction and this much would be the accuracy of that prediction? Because ultimate aim is the user will download the app, he will buy some assets, any financial assets, and then he will gain some kind of profit after putting his money.
Mhm.
So
See, there are different ways in which you evaluate your algorithm, right? So basically, the the very basic way in which you evaluate your algorithm. For example, we had in the past in the previous company we had something called as an equity rocket portfolio. So basically, it creates a portfolio of stocks for you in which you invest, which will have, for example, risky stocks, which will have non-risky stocks, etc. And this is a wealth basket which is given to you. You can subscribe to it, and then basically you go ahead and just look at the returns. So what you do essentially is you calculate the returns that you get on the portfolio versus the Nifty portfolio, right? So for example, how much did your Nifty go up, or how much did your Nifty give you the returns versus how much did your portfolio? So for example, for us, in general, we have seen that, for example, in Bridgewave, if the Nifty has given you around 5% of returns, our portfolio would give you around 50% of returns. So that's how you kind of look at and assess and check, like, okay, what is the portfolio returns that I'm getting versus what is the Nifty. Other things, for example, when you look at your model accuracy or your model score on a, let's say, on an intra company level. So within the company, if you want to assess how your models, AI models are performing, you basically look at your score, your prediction, versus what is the prediction that what is the realistic price that that particular stock or that particular asset, whether it's being crypto or whether it's a stock, achieved. And then you look at the amount of error that you get, in terms of what is your prediction versus what is the real term stock. So those are few parameters that you can use in order to evaluate, especially in the fintech space, what is the return that you get. Even in, for example, even in a prop tech space, for example, when you're looking at extracting information from documents, you have your typical F1 score, wherein for example, how good your model is performing. So what you do is you try to compare it with how actually a human would do that extraction, and what is the success rate. So how much basically do you differ, or your model differs from the actual realistic work which is done by a human then. So these are few things which you can do to compare.
that makes a lot of sense. So ultimately, if I sum up, and I should say that you are the person who is making trading easier and accessible even to the common people, and you are making them smart also. They don't have to go dive in deep into all the algorithms of how those things are going. Your predictions can do this better.
Sure. But Varun, there's a point here. See, algorithmic trading is not allowed in India, so that is we have to admit that. So basically, all that we do is basically we give recommendations, right? So it's on the individuals to study all the different other factors. So, for example, when we are developing the AI models, we factor in things like socioeconomic factors. So, for example, your macro and microeconomic condition of the economy, etc. So we have certain variables which we build into the model, which actually does the predictions. But again, these are recommendations, as I would say, and it's also part of the individual's responsibilities to just go ahead and see what the model is actually, or what this company returns are. And you have full choice. I mean, basically, if you think that no, the returns are not, even in short term or long term returns are not coming as per expected, you can pull out, like you do, for example, with any mutual fund, right? So you invest, You look and see for a longer term or for a shorter term, what is your target, and basically you can see if you are making enough money. If not, you pull out. So that is how I think people should be aware that yes, AI is there, will help you to make good decisions. But then I think you are a custodian. You have to also look at things from your end.
Right, that's true. Because the decision maker is ultimately the user. He has to consider all the factors. That's true.
Yeah.
So, if we talk about the current scenario, there are something which you are currently, waiting to upgrade. So, is there anything that you are heading to upgrade in your own uh, organization that, okay, we are going to upgrade this thing and we are going to make it more accessible, viable? Is there anything that you are currently heading?
Yeah, so Varun, currently, as I said, I'm working with a company called Mazadak here in Saudi Arabia. We are amongst the leaders when it comes to providing a platform for users to do auctions and sales. Auctions as an industry here in the GCC countries have traditionally been very manual, which means, just like how we have the IPL auctions, right? So the auctions have been very manual, and we are completely digitizing it. So we are completely transforming the way people used to do auctions in the whole GCC region, so across the whole Gulf countries. So we have the basic app with us, which helps people, and we also have another platform for sealed envelope, wherein companies don't want to disclose the bid amount. It's like something of a tender kind of that we have in the Indian scene. So we do have those platforms, but now what we are doing and what we are upgrading and bringing in new, as I mentioned, was to bring in social commerce, the C2C commerce here in the region, especially around the whole GCC countries, and especially around Saudi, because people are still, like right now, many of the people have started using Insta, TikTok, etc., to sell items live, but they don't. I think currently, especially in the GCC country and especially in Saudi Arabia, we don't have a dedicated platform for that. So that's something which we are bringing in as a game changer for the whole region. And as I mentioned, what we are also trying and developing to do right now is how do we use AI in this whole process to make social commerce more smooth, to make social commerce more valuable for both buyers as well as for sellers.
So when we talk about social commerce, so is it feasible that in your domain, even social commerce will be a successful decision? Because see, as I see it, social commerce is just for products. Though I don't know more about it, because this is going to be the one and only podcast where you are the one who has actually pitched that word, and we are going to literally write about it from your point of view only. So the question again arises, how social commerce is going to transform fintech industry?
See, social commerce, I think it's more for the e-commerce industry. If you want to take it to fintech, you can do that. I mean, there's nothing that you cannot sell on a social commerce platform. You can sell fintech products. You can sell, for example, you can sell insurances. You can sell, your wealth basket, whatever. I mean, see, in terms of the social commerce, it's between customer to customer, right? So currently, what the power of social commerce is that basically you can switch on your camera, you can switch on your laptop, you can go live and you can sell. What is that you sell is completely up to you, right? So basically, as I said, I gave an example that in US there's a company called Whatnot, which is hugely popular. People sell anything and everything on it. So be it collectibles, be it pendants, be it shirts, be it anything. So similarly, if you want to take it to fintech industries, I mean, there are a lot of fintech consultants, right? You have, I mean, especially a few years ago, we used to have you know, like consultation houses, fintech consultation houses. Example in Bangalore, we had many where people used to come to me to say pitch and say like, okay, this is for example the stock performance of so and so stocks. Do you want to invest in that? Or mutual funds. So for example, he used to come with a paper and tell us, okay, look, this is the mutual fund. Its fund performance is this, index performance is this, etc. I mean, you could very well create a group, within the app where you have enthusiasts who can basically come and speak about it, right? So there is no end, or there's no, let's say, no place where you cannot sell. So that's why I think social commerce is a very good revolution, not just in empowering people who can actually sell things at the comfort of their house, or I can buy things at the comfort of my house. But as I mentioned, it could be any domain. It could be anything that you want to go ahead and sell.
Right. So, how do you approach cyber security in as a top technological priority, and what measures you have taken to protect your organization or the app? Because when we talk about fintech, there is a major chance of the cyber security threats.
See, well, cybersecurity is very much embedded right now in about everything and everything that we do. So, for example, as you were mentioning, we have certain standards. We have the ISO 27001 standards. We also, as a company, we are, if you're a fintech, especially, you're obligated at least, I mean, you should do a vulnerability analysis, penetration testing, VAPT, as we call it, twice a year, maybe more. I mean, it depends on how your infrastructure and how your apps are undergoing a change. So actually doing a vulnerability analysis or a penetration testing will give you a lot of insight into not just your infrastructure, but also about your inline code. So for example, how are you writing and exposing your environment variables in your code, right? And for example, what are the things that you have built into your Docker container? I mean, it's as simple as that. So I think that is a key step which the companies have to do. In fact, we are doing one right now within Mazadak. So we are looking at our complete infrastructure, whether it is AWS, whether it is our code base, whether you use GitHub, GitLab, doesn't matter. Basically, what are the things that you have on the code, your user password, secret keys, how do you maintain them, keep them? I mean, these are some of the things which you would have to look at from an InfoSec, from an information security perspective. And similarly, as I said, there are different companies who have a lot of expertise in doing the vulnerability analysis and penetration testing. So you go to those experts, you ask them to do what we call as a gray box testing. So it's somewhere between white box and black box testing. In order to look at your complete infrastructure, in order to look at your complete code, in order to look at how you store each and every, like whether it's a secret key or environment variables, etc. So that is a very good practice to do. And also to an extent, I think nowadays, I mean, in the last years or so, things have changed. People have started using framework, whether you are using Django as your framework or whether you are using Laravel and PHP as your framework, doesn't matter. So a lot of these actually come with, a lot of these frameworks already provide you some sort of, remediation from cyber attacks. So for example, you can look at and see what about SQL injections? Have you covered all bases? What about, for example, with things in like man in middle attack, etc. So those are things which you can also look at. And as I said, so once you do these testings and you do audits, not only for your like, the security of the apps and the infrastructure, but also as you mentioned, we have the ISO 27001 standards, which also places a lot of emphasis on how the customer data is stored, who has access to that data, what sort of level of access that he or she have to the customer data and to your databases, and basically how do you use the data, how often do you, for example, clean up your repositories. So for example, there are cases where people would leave the company. So you basically have to make sure that you clean up all the information, and they don't have an access to the data or the profiles of the companies. So these are different things which you have to look at, in terms of a holistic view of cybersecurity.
So Mazadak, right? So in terms of
Yeah.
yeah, so this is an application, a mobile applications, which is designed to provide a e-commerce marketplace that is transparent, safe, and reliable. So these are the trust builders.
Yeah.
These are the trust
Yeah.
builders. So, how do we propagate, like as a person, you are a person who is directly representing a latest uh, technological landscape which is penetrating into the market, and you are providing them all these things. But there comes a question of the trust builder. So, how do you convey or propagate that message to the audience that the technology, the application you are providing is completely reliable, transparent, safe for your business or for your use?
Sure. See, Varun, it depends on like your communication to the customers, and the customers would see it. So when we say transparency, for example, um, we make sure that the prices that you are actually bidding for, if you are doing a bidding on our platform, are visible to everyone else. The price that you have actually put for, let's say, to buy an item, it is visible to everyone else. And if somebody outbids you, then that is also something which you can see on the app. So it's very transparent in terms of like how the bidding process goes when it comes to auctions. When it comes to sales, you can also go ahead and buy the item, or like an eBay style, where you can actually go ahead and do a proposal to the seller, saying that, okay, I want to pay X amount, for this, and everything is very transparent. You could see it in the app. You can look at it. So as soon as you start using the app, you get to know that these guys are transparent in terms of the security, in terms of providing that confidence to the users that their data is safe with us, as I mentioned. So we do a lot of let's say robust work in terms of looking at do we store it, where do we store it. So we are really cloud-based company, so we have the best security practices when it comes to using. So we use AWS as our cloud service provider. So we have used the best practices when it comes to storing customer data, and also the information of the customers in the cloud. And AWS is actually very well known for that. So there's it needs no claim. But then, of course, on top of that, we run our own best practices to make sure that that is there. And as a user, when you come to the app, when you start using the app, you look at the transparency, you look at the security parts, you will be self-convinced. So even if you put a marketing line that your data is secure, unless and until you experience it, you would not you would not believe it.
Right. That is actually very grateful insight from your side. So, if I, so that is something which I say that you have actually not actually decoded the CTO profile, but actually also decoded the marketing head profile also, because this is something that comes from the marketing side, but I purposely put it there, and the clarity you have given, it's actually propounding to me. So that is a good thing. Apart from this, we are coming to the end of our podcast right now, and before we end, I really want you to address the audience, because the audience is all tech enthusiasts who want to become a CTO, who want to go to learn a new kind of technology, or just want to pursue their career. So is there anything for our audience from your side?
Sure. Yeah, I think not just looking at the CTO as a profile, but I think as I refer to it, so I am a lifelong learner, right? So basically, being in a tech industry, which is very advanced and which upgrades every 2 to 3 years, I think one of the key qualities which I would definitely ask everyone is to be a lifelong learner. So you have new technologies coming up every now and then. So try to make use of all the platforms, learning platforms that you have. You have LinkedIn as a learning platform. You have Coursera, Udemy, all those places where you can get courses. You have a lot of seminars, webinars. So different places through which you can gain knowledge. And trust me, I think any knowledge that you gain is always helpful, especially in a tech industry which is constantly changing. So I think that would be the key piece of advice to anyone. Basically, just keep learning.
That's great, sir. And this is coming to an end now. And as we draw the curtain on this episode, we have journeyed through the vast landscape technology with Avinav, sir, Chief Technology and Product Officer as Mazadak, as our guide. His insights have illuminated the path ahead in the world of artificial intelligence. Before we end our podcast, we would like to know that we would like to explore more, and especially the ADFAR would love to learn more on your current IT priorities and how we can support you. So, if your schedule permits, can we plan a follow up meeting on next Thursday, 4 p.m. KSA time?
Sure. I think, yeah. So, see, Varun, currently, as I mentioned, basically, we are driving ourselves a lot to be in the social commerce space, in the at a point where we are providing a lot of value to the customers who are using our apps in order to do in order to buy or sell anything. So definitely there would be requirements which will come along the way, and I think let me take stock of my current hiring plans and current needs. So we have multiple projects that we are currently working on, whether, as I mentioned, so whether it is the use of AI into the domain, or whether we are looking at different, let's say, cloud-based solution to handle the scale of operations once we look into expanding into different GCC regions. So sure, I think let me look at that. Let me look at my schedule, and I'll just come back to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And apart from that, I really love to continue this podcast with your team or anyone you refer from your side also, so that we can explore more about that social commerce thing. That is one thing which is I really personally feel that people don't know about it much more. They know
Mhm.
about AI, which is the tip of the iceberg. They know about machine learning, which is also the tip of the iceberg. But as you have mentioned that social e-commerce is something which is going to be a groundbreaking technology or groundbreaking trend. So,
Sure.
is there anyone that you can refer to us from your side so that we can continue this podcast on the same ground?
Me check, Varun. I'll ask a couple of people, and I'll get back to you.
That's great, sir. That's great. So that is the end of our podcast. Let podcast. Let podcast. Let